Hello people, I'm Jaby Koay, joined by Moriah Garcia. She does not like bananas at all, according. She devours them like crazy. Okay, so we're gonna look at EIC fairy fails. No idea what this is about.
Fairy fails.
In the description, we've read fairy tales all our lives. They've always been about love, princes, and happily ever afters. However, Snow White, Cinderella, and Sleeping Beauty beg to differ.
EIC.
And then the princess married her Prince Charming and they lived together in the castle happily ever after. Good night, my baby girl. Sleep tight.
Mama, can I be a princess too?
Of course, sweetie. And one day you'll find your Prince Charming too. Hopefully not through Tinder.
One day you'll find your Prince Charming too.
Sit down. You make me sick.
No, just what? Please excuse her. Hi, hello, how are you?
Who are you?
Cinderella, Snow White, Sleeping Beauty. You're welcome.
You guys are real? How is that even possible?
Can you stop with the questions? Cinderella has to bounce at 12. Oh,
I get him.
3 words: Rapunzel, window, hair.
Technically that's 4 words. Window, Rapunzel, hair,
Wow,
boom.
guys, she can count. That's amazing. Can we get to the point now?
It's 2017. Don't you think it's time you stop reading such
Trash.
such polarized stories to your daughter?
Even my evil stepmother was less delusional and she used to talk to a mirror. Hello? Is anybody in there?
She's got issues.
Excuse me, but these are your stories.
No! These stories are lazy misinterpretations of events that people have based their entire lives around for generations.
Propaganda by manipulated male writers.
Just like religion.
Yeah.
These stories are just fiction. I mean, no one takes the details so seriously.
Oh yeah? Then why do we all have to be fair, skinny, docile and agreeable all the time in every single tale?
Yeah, Mariah.
See?
Why?
That's what I'm
We've been
saying.
on a diet for 400 years. I mean, we saw pizza being invented and we didn't get to eat it. Those pepperoni toppings, that double cheese burst.
That pineapple.
Yeah.
Hey, nothing wrong with pineapple. Y'all shut up. Pineapple's tasty.
Maybe this was what was expected of women once upon a time. Get it? Once upon a time.
Of course. Look at how times have changed.
Don't you see? These stories are filled with empty and outdated phrases such as once upon a time and happily ever after and love at first sight.
Balls, man. I mean, how do you even fall in love with a guy who calls himself Prince Charming?
More like Prince Erectile Dysfunction.
Oh my god.
Look, I just need a good story to read to my child. Okay? Have you gone 72 hours without sleep? I don't think so because none of you have children.
Yeah, bro. Erectile
Why
dysfunction.
does she keep saying?
These are just tales to fuel her imagination. She's a child for God's sake. She plays with Barbies all day.
Did you just say the B word?
This is code pink, guys. Code pink.
Sir, I think it's time. Good evening and welcome to yet another episode of Fairy Fails. I am your host Cinderella, no last name, and today's
No last
contestant
name.
is a young-ish mother who's a garden
Yes.
enthusiast and a raging alcoholic.
No, I just have the occasional.
If you say so, let's play! Fancy party. Do you wear tight glass heels or comfortable footwear?
Comfortable shoes.
You're stuck with 7 idiotic dudes. Do you cook for them all day or do you earn a living?
Obviously earn a living.
Sleep forever or sleep forever.
What does it even mean?
Sleep forever.
Get kissed by a stranger without consent or by someone that you love.
Kiss someone I love.
Live life on someone else's whim and fancy or live life on your own terms.
Live life on my own terms.
So, what did we learn today?
Fairy tales set unrealistic standards and expectations of us.
Yes.
So I need to read to my daughter stories of strong, independent women.
Because
Because what I read to her today will determine the young woman she grows up to be tomorrow.
Yes! We finally have a winner!
So basically, I just have to find a better fairy tale to read.
No, you don't need fairy tales anymore. Just look in the real world. There's so many inspiring stories of women for you to read.
Like
Madam Curie,
Rani Lakshmibai?
Michelle Obama.
Kalpana Chawla.
Malala Yousafzai?
Yes.
J.K. Rowling.
Beyonce.
Yeah!
Who run the world? Girls! Who run the world?
She's by herself.
Yeah.
Girls?
Cute.
Cinderella.
If you enjoyed this video, would you like or comment?
Both.
And would you share or subscribe?
Also both.
Is this video over? Because I have a date with Prince Erectile Dysfunction.
That was cute. That was really cute.
I really liked it a lot. I think the conversation that it's inviting is actually very important, very smart. It's something I've been talking about for a long time. I personally think that the fairy tales can be misleading. The thing is, we have to be considerate of which fairy tales or interpretations of those fairy tales we're talking about. If you look at the original Little Mermaid, it was about self-sacrifice and not putting yourself first. Unlike the newer iterations which indicate a different message. If you guys haven't read or watched anything about the original Little Mermaid, you should definitely investigate it because it's worthwhile. It's an interesting story. I don't know what the original stories were of the three princesses that were brought up here, but I do know that those were darker stories. Originally.
Yeah.
Like they were all darker stories and they've been made to be more, I guess, palatable for children. I do agree though, because it does perpetuate certain ideas that are still prevalent in our society today that it still has this weird legacy effect where I think it hurts both men and women is what I'm trying to say.
Disney is now aware of that and is working to counteract what they've already set in place. I think Mulan
is an example of
which
that.
is one of the more original Disney princesses. And now we have like Moana, Brave,
yes. That's Pixar, but yes. I mean, it's associated. It's the same
yeah.
company. But the first really clear, on-the-nose indication of a shift was, of all things, Frozen, followed up by Maleficent. Both of those indicated that it's not necessarily about the guy, it's about the female relationship with each other, and you can't just fall in love with someone in a day. It has to be groomed and developed over time. Someone you just meet in a day, you can't like just instantly want to marry, and that's it, you live happily ever after. That's what I liked about Frozen before Frozen became this sensational thing that every kid has to play on the radio.
I love the examples that they used in this. I love Michelle Obama, especially as of this week. I've been getting into Malala. I heard her on Oprah Winfrey's Super Soul podcast.
Okay.
This chick is so badass. Like, I want to emulate my life after her. So I think giving those examples were really spot on, and I would love to like look back on the other examples that they gave that I'm not as familiar with.
I think the inherent issue isn't even necessarily the stories, because it's fine if you want to tell a story about a woman meeting Prince Charming and however that occurs, however that makes its way forward and reaches a conclusion, it's actually fine. What is the problem is lazy parenting and not explaining that this is a story, it is fictional, and it's not real. This happens a lot with, for instance, hip-hop music, right? It has this kind of bravado behind it. I killed this many people, took this many bullets, and half the time, more than half the time, most of the time, it's all just theater. It's not real. And yet it's having this impact on society where people think gangster rap is spoken from a real place when a lot of times it's just bravado. It's just fluff, right?
I feel like even though knowing that these stories are fictional, even going into that, you still, as a young woman growing up, like with my experiences, you feel like you're one objective in life is to find your Prince Charming. You can go to school, you can get a job, you can do all this, but it feels like the main objective is like, but did you get married? But did you find your soulmate?
Right.
That's not the biggest thing in life. You're raised to think that way, and I feel like not every woman, but a lot of girls in my social groups and such, all they're fixated is on like that wedding. That's the beginning of their happily ever after, and it's like my happily ever afters maybe started when I moved to LA.
Sure.
It doesn't have to be fixated on a guy, which which I think that's what these fairy tales tell us, even though if you know it's fictional as a story.
I agree with you, and I agree with the flaws that are kind of built in. The reason I'm taking a step further back and saying parents is because, like, video games. Right now, we're dealing with a very current issue. Trump is blaming video games for mass shootings and violence, right? There's no actual association with that. Obviously, there's a very clear association you can draw between fairy tales that are prevalent in films and the impact it has on the young female, or even the young males for that matter. The more important thing, more than changing the stories, I mean, obviously you want to introduce balance, right? With other stories that tell it a different way, so it's not all just this. Is the most important part is parents going, look, this is not real, this is just a story, it doesn't actually work this way in real life. Just movies in general are made to be a very limited narrative. It's a very narrow window into these people's lives, and it's like most of the time what you see in movies, it doesn't work that way because real life isn't convenient like that, like a neat package. It's messy and it's random, and often arbitrary things enter our lives that don't allow for a very simple through-line narrative the way it's portrayed in movies.
Yeah.
Movies are that way because it's entertainment, and I think that parents just don't explain to their kids, this is entertainment, it's not real.
I think it's almost, some parents aren't even aware of it. I love my mother.
Yeah.
I think that that has been one of her faults in life, was feeling that a man was the solution to everything.
She also comes from a different era.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. Is
Yeah.
I think a lot of women that raised us, that's what they were raised with. But now that as a nation, we're more conscientious of the way that we need to progress with our societal norms.
It is often passed down. It's legacy is I think the word you're looking for, because her parents probably had the same thing, but she was also coming from a society where women didn't have the same opportunities that men have. So she's still holding on to that, not really knowing that it's changed and there's more opportunities now than there were before. Yeah. And it's not her fault necessarily that she doesn't realize that or know that. I grew up with a different kind of mom, thankfully. And so a lot of this stuff where women are like, well, we don't have the same rights as you. I'm like, that's confusing to me because I always thought you did. I grew up thinking that women have it exactly the same because my mom was the breadwinner. And she told me recently, she's like, you know, the reason why I had a job and whatnot is because I didn't ever want to be in a situation where if something happened to your father or to my husband, I would be at a loss and wouldn't have any money. Like I wanted to be able to take care of myself and my kids. I grew up with that woman.
Yeah.
So this is all new to me as an adult, where women are like, we don't have the same opportunities. I'm like, oh, really? I thought you did. Like my mom certainly did. She worked her ass off like my whole life. She's still working, in fact. I think that this issue is a problem, but again, I have to go back to, it's not the story's fault. What exactly happens in the home with a parent and child? That all comes down to the parent and the child and that relationship and that level of honesty with what's going on.
But don't you think of how you said that the original storyline of The Little Mermaid is different than what is been published in Disney books and film?
Yeah, it is different. They wanted to create a more
So that wasn't even the original storyline.
No, it's not.
Yeah.
Well, they altered it for the sake of something that's more, I guess, palatable or will sell more easily.
Well, Prince Eric was the best looking prince out of all the films, to be honest. That was my girl crush growing up. Yeah, Prince Eric is a hot dude. I had these Barbies, and I had a Prince Eric and a Little Mermaid Barbie, and my dad one time saw me making them kiss, and he's like, what are they doing? And I'm like, nothing.
I think it affects both sexes in a very bad way, where a girl will look past what I think is probably a very good match for her in favor of something else, and it's confusing because this guy looks like Prince Charming, but really he's an asshole.
Right.
And this other dude over here, he's got a stable income.
Yep.
He's empathetic, and he would take care of you, and like mutually
prioritize you.
Prioritize you. You guys could take care of each other.
The effort.
Exactly.
You make,
And yet he's neglected and looked past because he's not edgy and cool like the dudes in the movies.
Wealthy
all that stuff. We all need to take a good look at what we subscribe to as attractive. At the same time, you know, there are nice things in there that I can't help but appreciate. I still, even though I don't know the possibilities of it for myself, I still kind of subscribe to the fairy tale of like being that Prince Charming for somebody and, you know, taking care of someone in the way that it's kind of portrayed in these stories. I know it's all false and it's artificial and silly.
Yeah.
But there's a part of me, maybe it's just legacy, that still kind of holds on to that and hopes for that on some level, in some way. Yeah. It's almost like the same thing with misogyny. Guys kind of grew up with the misogynistic culture, and now guys who are like pre-millennial or at the very edge of millennial, in terms of being older, have to wrestle with that and have to go, okay, so this is not okay to think and believe. And there are things in myself where I still have to fight that off and like go, no, that's not okay. You can't think that way because that's not cool anymore.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's not cool to say anymore.
You're like having an identity crisis in somewhere.
So to speak, it's a moral crisis, like of what's okay and what's not, especially in this current what do you call it, political landscape of #MeToo, #Time's Up, and whatnot. It's all very confusing. It's adjustment, and I feel like the next generation after us will do a lot better because they'll be raised in it. It's not new; it's normal. The talent in this, I think that conceptually this is really awesome. Just taking these characters that we've all kind of grown up with and turning them on their heads. Having this mom was great, by the way. Like she was very believable as this person and really fun. I like just kind of her innocent,
youngish.
Yeah, youngish. I like her. I like her innocent character, just her approach to the whole thing, where she's just trying to. She explains it good.
Just trying to be a mom.
Yeah, she explains it well. She's just trying to put her kid to bed and move on with her evening. And it's just an easy out. It's a lot easier to read the storybook that's already there, packaged nicely, and has cartoons that are very colorful and palatable for kids, versus talking about Michelle Obama. Like your little kid is not going to give a shit about Michelle Obama as much as awesome as that is to talk about. There's no book on that.
Yeah.
Richard Dawkins actually approached this. He made what looks like a fairy tale book about evolution. Because there's all these like colorful books about the creation myths and whatnot. Mm-hmm. And he's like, well, I'll take that approach. And he actually has a very nice looking book about evolution, the Big Bang, and all that stuff. And it's like, we kind of need to do that with these people that we should be admiring, like Malala and Michelle Obama and all these female heroines that are important to discuss. I can find a negative in that as well. Like, we need to make sure we're making it clear that people are human. They're not perfect. Because the other thing we're wrestling with is our idols falling, because we're like, oh my god, no, they can't be bad. Well, Kevin Spacey did what? No.
You always need to recognize the good.
Yes. Both.
Yeah.
It's both. They're humans.
Exactly.
Just like us.
I love Kevin Spacey.
Not anymore. Not anymore.
House of Cards is my favorite show.
Yeah. Again, I like this a lot. EIC, you did a fantastic job here. This was well crafted, well told. The message was very loud and clear, and I appreciate it a lot. Thanks so much for letting us react to this. Make sure to follow Moriah on the social media. She really, really, really would like it if you did. She's just desperate for attention.
Dying for it.
Just needs it. Just like her, it's her lifeline, and she's not getting enough of it. You guys
feed me lots of compliments too.
Keep her alive, please.